That is a wrap on Better Call Saul Season 5 player ratings with myself, Eoin, Ger Gilroy, Joseph Conroy. Lads, what the hell? That was unbelievable. The last 5 episodes. We haven't done a piece since our Season 4 review. And I feel like we should have been doing this last year and then doing an episode-by-episode guide to Season 5 because I'm sure there's going to be no disagreements here. That is one of the greatest conclusions that have been drawn out in the history of television. And I'm talking about a five-pronged attack to all of our senses, to our heartstrings. Those last 5 episodes, utterly sublime. Jerry, we might start with you. What do you think of the season finale to Better Call Saul?
So spoiler alerts from this point forward. Everybody should know that we are going to talk about. Yeah. Okay, so you knew that they weren't going to kill Lalo. Like, you just knew it. You knew that when Saul, Jimmy, is he Saul? Is he Jimmy? What should we call him? What's his name?
I think it's different names for different parts of the conversation. You can kind of go both sides of the fence.
Is that rhetorical?
Like Jimmy, okay. I don't know. I think maybe it's so when Jimmy and Kim are celebrating Saul's death before they've seen a picture of the body, you know he's not going to die. You just know he's not going to die. And so that was great. That last bit. But also, like, what they've done here is not kill any important character. They've managed to keep everybody just about alive in these different narrative strands to the point where, well, maybe they've killed the old Kim Wexler. We can come back to that a little bit later on, maybe. But look, it was really, really, really good. I think I'm going to give out my first 10 at the end of this when we're done.
There's a couple of 10s coming for me. Joe, what do you make of it?
Yes, picking up on what you were saying, Ger, about no one dying. I thought someone might die. I didn't know who. I thought maybe Nacho, just because we've only got probably 10 episodes left. It's like, do we need to lose someone along the way? But incredible stuff. It's actually hard. I think you're in the same position, Ger, last week of being halfway through this series. Last week talking about series 4, which was actually, even though season 4 is brilliant, it was almost hard to concentrate because there's just fireworks going off. So definitely.
Like, I really feel, in hindsight, we've been kind of patronizing to Better Call Saul. We've paid it a lot of lip service in terms of talking about season 2, 3, 4 and how it compares to Breaking Bad. Really, it does. Really, you were always going to pick Breaking Bad up until this season. This is the 5-episode run to go back to it again, especially 4 of those episodes. Once you have Wexler versus Goodman, that's when it goes to Breaking Bad's level. That's when you're going into the realms where it's like, you can't argue against this being at least a 9 out of 10 episode. Week after week after week. I think on IMDb they actually have all got over 9, but you're talking about a 9.6, a 9.8 for the desert episode and for episode 9.
It is interesting because, like, I think the walls really break down on that desert episode, which literally basically is a Breaking Bad episode. Like, you've got back to the kind of buddy sort of dynamics of having two people kind of put in a crazy situation. You've got this kind of problem solving thing that they used to always do in Breaking Bad, where it's like, oh no, we need to get X to Y, or we need to get this from that guy, or we need to move whatever. These little like bottlenecks kind of, which isn't something that they've been doing in Better Call Saul. You've got that back. Vince Gill's actually back directing that. So that was really kind of like, it's totally a different show. And then kind of, it feels like after that, we're kind of living in a sort of new thing that's like not Breaking Bad, not what Better Call Saul was. And it's kind of like they've sneakily Trojan horsed in effectively like a follow-up to Breaking Bad. That's not a prequel. It's just a whole new thing.
After the bit in the desert, is that what you mean? That's the turning point for you?
Yeah.
And I think you're bang on the money there. Vince Gilligan directs that episode, and that's the first time in the entire series, for me anyway, where you're sitting there and you actually audibly have to say something. You can no longer keep your silence to yourself. You actually have to make some sort of noise. It's almost like Rafa Nadal serving when he's into the 5th set. You have to concentrate your energy into something oral. And at that moment, when Jimmy is lying there, what?
What did you say?
I think it was something along the lines of holy fuck. And then I just kept repeating that. Just when like, Gilligan does an unbelievable job of this, that you almost realize immediately how significant this whole shoot up is going to be on Saul Goodman and what this is going to do to his senses. We see immediate PTSD over the following episodes when Kim starts using the blender and it sends him into a frenzy. Like, it's 5 different directors for 5 different episodes, and even just kind of picking apart between Gilligan in episode 8, and then I think it's Thomas Schnauz in episode 9. It's hard to know which is actually the better directed episode, because they are the two best episodes yet, without question. Do you prefer the sort of incredible quest?
So remind us, sorry.
So yeah,
so 8 is the desert, and
8
9
is Bagman. Is the apartment.
Okay.
9 is the apartment, and I almost think, even though episode 8 is the one that gets the oral response, and I'm looking at that's 9.8 on IMDb. No, sorry, it's not. It's 9.7, and then it's 9.8 on IMDb, the one with the apartment. Sorry, they're actually both 9.8 now that I look at it. And I would actually say that the following one, episode 9, is actually the better directed episode. I'm not sure did you both pick up on this. When Mike calls Jimmy opens the phone, and you immediately realize Lalo's at the door. But you can actually make out Kim Wexler's silhouette in the background. You're like, well, this is it. She's done. She's dead. And what a Breaking Bad / Better Call Saul way to kill off a character. But he's going to be on the phone to Mike, and in the silhouette in the background, you're going to see her getting shot. That's exactly how I expected it to happen, but it doesn't. And they keep us there. They put us on ice for the final 7-8 minutes. And for 3 people having a conversation in an apartment, and with the tapping of the goldfish, with the sniper shot right on Lalo's head, it's an unbelievable creation of tension. And still knowing that Saul is going to survive, that he makes it to Breaking Bad, we know this, and yet at his edge of the seat.
They're kind of dealing the odds, because we know by hook or by crook Saul's going to be okay. But then also, even just the shot you're talking about, and then you've with the actual knock on the door, and that kind of just letting that hang for a second, where like basically you're bringing back the Breaking Bad, I'm the one who knocks catchphrase. It's kind of like when the band are sort of like going through their sort of good new album, then they like hit the intro from one of the classics. It's like, oh, hang on. So yeah, no, that was the episode that got me like up at midnight in the Better Call Saul subreddits.
Yeah, like it's interesting that you talk about a band bringing back their better hits. Like, it turns out that the Better Call Saul writers have actually just created a brand new hit single in the Pistols, and the I'm Saul Goodman scene at the end of season 4, which gets immediately replicated 10 episodes later, when Kim does that very thing to Jimmy after what is a haunting scene in the hotel room. Again, just dialogue under the covers where they're talking about the end of Howard Hamlin, and Kim Wexler just goes to this whole new level. You say, Ger, that she's been killed off in practical terms. The whole moral compass that she is, it has now departed us. Is it at that moment that you realize it?
I think it's been coming. I think we've definitely talked about this, and it's been flagged as we go, where like and this is like the art of this series has been an art that like watchers like us who are just watching it can see it evolve. It's not, there's no like, oh, Kim wouldn't do that. By the end, you're like, she's turned her back on that thing that she strove for, to the point where she nearly died in a car accident, and she's realized that there's more to life than this. And actually, she's looked at how all of her colleagues have gone about their lives. Chuck, for example, underhanded methods. Ultimately, how he betrayed his whole notion of what the law stood for. Howard basically would schmooze anybody if he thought that he was going to get any money out of it, and was completely underhanded at various stages. So the law is being held up here, and she's turned her back on being everybody else's moral compass, because ultimately what she wants is the money to do right. When she's asked, what would you do with the money? It's like, oh, immediately I'd hire these brilliant lawyers to do great work. She's basically Robin Hood. And clearly Saul Goodman he's not really that interested in all that kind of, why would we spend all our money on good work? It's like, I want a house. We're getting a nice house. And we, a ranch in Montana is on his shopping list, not like helping people who need access to law. So this wasn't the first time at all. I think that has been relatively well signposted. So it's not a shock, but it's also like, hang on, is she doing it? And his response is like, because I think he expects her to walk away. I think, like, in a way, sorry, you did, when she was up early the next morning going about her business and going to work, and he's like, oh, let's have the party. It felt a little bit like he was begging her to stay almost in the relationship. And that was just a complete misread on my part, because she was never going. She's like, actually really, I mean, if you look at how well she performed under the pressure of having to speak to save her life, when it came down to it, she was a superstar. Yeah, but like hers as well. There was no way he's just going to kill him and walk away and leave her to tell the story of, oh, that bad man killed that that guy that used to be my husband. So it was both their lives, I think.
Yeah,
That last episode, it's great though, because you're talking about, like, she's gone off to work. You kind of have this, he's sort of wants her to stay. Is there a bit of jeopardy here? Is she having second thoughts? You have the brilliant, I'm sure we'll come back to Howard later on, but the Howard scene where, as
Sublime.
she puts it, where there's a lot of Howard thoughts to be shared, but as she puts it, she's like, oh, he's going to come along on his white horse and save me from myself. But in that moment when he's like, do you know your new husband is like throwing bowling balls at my house and sending prostitutes to my lunches, there is a video that's kind of going, is the next thing going to be her going, Jimmy, what's going on? Where she's like, that guy trying to save me. But then you don't realize that kind of both you watching and Saul think they can kind of rein her in too, as in when she's having this crazy idea, he's like, oh, but that's not you. You wouldn't actually do that. And she's like, what do you mean it's not me? Like, and then you just got no idea where this is going into the last series, which is brilliant.
Do you think we're going to get more from Wexler's background? We've only got the one scene really to just reveal that she comes from an overly troubled background, but certainly one where she's been brought up with an alcoholic mother. And you'd wonder if that kind of informs her worldview, that you've got to work your ass off to get everything. She worked her ass off to work her way up from the mailroom to get onto a partner track in HHM. Jimmy is somebody, while a complete hustler, is on the same sort of level. And I just wonder if that kind of informs her disdain for Howard Hamlin, that he has essentially been handed his role in the nepotistic sort of elements of HHM down through the years. And I guess that directly rails against the way Jimmy's operated, insofar as his brother hated him as a lawyer. But with Kim, she kind of falls somewhere in the middle, that she rails against that idea as well. So I think I agree that it's been coming to a point, but I was completely off the mark on season 4. I genuinely thought that she was pandering to Jimmy McGill, that this was her grieving husband, or her grieving boyfriend at the time, and this was how she was going to keep him sweet while he was going through his tough time. But how wrong was I? The tables have turned completely on this, where she almost has the upper hand on everything they're going to do in season 6.
She was always the best in those scenes where they were trying to convince somebody to give them a check for their startup or their mine or whatever it was. Like, it was clearly something that she completely enjoyed, and it felt like it was just blowing off steam, or a weekend warrior going out and doing whatever it is you do at the weekends, as opposed to the day job was who her character was. But actually, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, because the reason that she wants to do this is because she wants to do good work. Like, fundamentally, she's a good person. She just realizes that the world is a screwed up place, and to get to advance forward in that world, you've got to bend the rules or make your own rules. And everywhere people make their own rules, they get rich and successful in this. And so she's going to start setting her own rules. I think it really sets up season 6. Are we sure season 6 is the end? I haven't Googled this, Owen. We are all going on you at this point, that this is the final season that we're heading into whenever it comes.
I'm 90% sure.
That.
Yeah, it's been mentioned.
Yeah, it's the last series.
Well, when it's going to happen, we obviously don't know. Like, when they're going to get to start filming. I think it was February.
It was originally, I think,
last year. I'm not sure, Joe. What
it was due
read.
to be out early next year. It was due to be out early next year, but then obviously with everything else, it's a bit up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, that's a bit of a
definitely
shame.
Is at the point. Just during the binge phase, we were at that point where it's like, oh, it must have been excruciating to watch this 5 years ago and not be able to watch like the next 6 episodes straight away. So we're kind of caught up with ourselves there.
Yeah. This is going to be a long. Like, I do think that the worst season to not be binging it at the time would have been The Recorder. I still think that it doesn't leave us on as much of a cliffhanger. I think that there's enough things tied up, and I just think, especially on Kim's level, it almost leaves you more excited for what's going to come rather than frustrated about will she or won't she go down a certain path. I think we've got a bit of certainty about at least the decision-making process that Kim is going to make, and we know that Nacho is fucked. Like as simple as that, and that's what's going to happen. Like, we'll get into that. We'll get into the player ratings. Just 2 other things I wanted to touch on here, because this is a season review as opposed to just an episode review at the end. What do you guys think of Wexler versus Goodman? Because for me, as I said, this is episode 6 in the season. This is where Jimmy, at the time it seems, had turned completely on Kim, and at the end of this, the cliffhanger at the end of Wexler versus Goodman is her saying, "We need to get married." And that for me is the moment when you start to realize that, okay, she's going to take the upper hand in all of this.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well it shows that because Jimmy's gone on a solo run and basically completely gone off their plan, like, and he's kind of she's gone along with that. She's not come back and gone, "What the hell? I thought we were in this together." She's kind of allowed him to cut loose there, while also his in the bigger picture, he's cutting loose and getting kind of knee deep in the cartel. But yeah, no, it's a great episode and yeah, great ending. That scene, that last confrontation that ends with her saying we need to get married, like that, I thought like, okay, well, they're gonna break up here.
That's exactly it. It could have gone either way at that point, and I think that's kind of the end of the breadcrumbs. That's the bit where she's like, we're fully involved in all of this. Although, again, I kind of feel like he should have told her when he got back from the desert exactly what had happened straight away, because at that point, like, hung for sheep as a lamb, right? It's like, I've just been in this crazy shootout. I'm clearly not myself, and I'm not going to be myself for quite a while here. Yeah. So look at that scene in where is this the season where they're derailing the Mesa Verde expansion?
Yes, the call center. Yeah.
Yeah. Is this also the season that starts with them like having the baby milk spill and the plans be replaced?
I think that's at the very end of season 4. But
is it? Okay. So like that's her absolutely breaking all the rules, like completely breaking the rules for a very minor gain at that point. It seems like just to help the big bank. So like her character is definitely as varied a character as you've seen in most pop culture. Certainly most female characters are this is a brilliantly drawn female character. Like the decision to get married was ingenious because you really felt like she wanted to be with him and that there was a genuine, proper partnership between them that, again, you don't see very often. Like there aren't very many equal married couples in TV history where the relationship works out.
The wedding day was kind of heartbreaking though, wasn't it?
I thought it was a bit weird to gauge because it's like how much of this is transactional and how much of this is like, I want to get married to you. Here's an excuse. Let's do it. And it's kind of just in this sort of gray area that a lot of their relationships in.
Yeah, they're deeply unromantic people. Like, and they it turns out are emotionally stunted from various reasons. A brother who didn't love you, a mother who, was like drink driving you home from cello. And they're not very good at expressing their how much they love each other. It's through their actions. It's like they're very old notions of how romance works, by my deeds as opposed to my words shall you know me.
The one last thing I wanted to say about the last couple of episodes before we get into play ratings is just to reiterate how beautiful the whole desert episode is. As horrible as parts of it is to watch, when you've got Jimmy drinking his own piss, for example, I don't think that's exactly something. Beautiful isn't exactly an adjective that comes to mind, but I just thought it was sensational. Like when he uses "I've got the" by Labby Seaford, which obviously becomes Eminem's and "My Name Is" down the line. I just thought, what an amazing choice of song. 3 weeks of filming out in the desert, and for something that serves at the start, you think, not a great function. I don't know, just the landscape is crystallized in that 30 minutes better than it ever was in Breaking Bad. And I think, Jerry, you touched on it early doors here about how important the character, almost the setting, is in Albuquerque. And whenever we get a glimpse of the desert, how awesome it is. And that was at its very peak. I thought it was the artistic highlight of Better Call Saul so far, and possibly up there with any of the peaks of Breaking Bad as well. The montage game is just outrageous. Player ratings. Kim Wexler we're going to start with this week because Jimmy McGill is no longer the main character in this. Kim Wexler is now the main character in Better Call Saul. She gets a 10 out of 10, and I dare say you've both gone for 10 as well.
Gone with the 9.5 just to leave that little bit of ceiling just in case, but yeah.
In case what?
Just in case. You never know. You never know.
Ger, what have you gone for here?
I was going for 9.5. I think... Look, I think it's sensationally well acted, well written. There was definitely a few bits and pieces where I was uncertain about as she worked out what she wanted to do with Mesa Verde. Like, Paul Rice was on last night saying that whenever there's a neat little narrative in history, you have to be completely suspicious because real life isn't like that. Neat little narratives are to be suspected. It's always bollocks, basically, was his point. And Kim's transformation from cutthroat banking lawyer to somebody who wants to purge her soul of the fact that she's been making loads of money for big banks is exactly how it would work out in real life. I think it's like, I want to do this thing, but I've got all this money over here and I just can't leave it. And like, because she was in and she was out, and she was in and she was out, and then she went back in again. And then it was eventually like, okay, the fight with the boss, and they recover and everything gets fixed again. The bit where like she blows off the big boss of Mesa Verde, and eventually she recovers because she has that ability to do it. It's how it would happen in real life. You wouldn't wake up one day and go, right, I'm actually now a do-gooder. So when you're living through it, you're like, are the writers unsure about where her character arc is going? Was there going to be a season 6? Were they going to like wrap this up and they've got to get to that point really quickly, or are they not sure? And then eventually you just realize actually it's just really well written and the layers of everything are very good. So for that, I don't know if that makes any sense that I'm deducting points for that as opposed to actually adding points for that, but halfway through it you're like, I'm not sure where this is going, and then ultimately it resolves. So maybe I should give it a 10. Okay, you convinced me. I've talked myself into it.
Where does Kim Wexler rank in the entire Breaking Bad universe of characters? Right now, I'm thinking number 1. The entire Breaking Bad universe, I think she is the best thing Vince Gilligan and co have ever created. You've summed it up fairly neatly there, Ger. Like she comes from a far different position of desperation than say someone like Walter White does. Like we can almost understand. You can almost understand Walter White's conversion into a villain and how deep he was. Like we've got to realize here that Kim Wexler was operating on the periphery of the cartel scene for quite a bit up until this. Like her transformation through the courtrooms and how it's shown just through her interactions with Howard and Jimmy is quite remarkable, really. It's a triumph of television writing. And like maybe she's the best written character, but I think even if you take out the writing and in terms of even just as an enjoyable character, she's right up there too.
Yeah, it was really interesting hearing you guys after the first series talking about how kind of unfleshed out and underwritten and kind of thrown in she seems, knowing that kind of not knowing how big she'd become with the past few series, but knowing how they were going to develop that character before you did. But partially, I don't know how much you can compare it to the likes of Walter, because I think a lot of it depends on where they go with it from here. But definitely, yeah, she's in that top tier. Another reason I could take half a point off is I think was going to Lalo in jail a mistake. Like, was it overconfident? She's going there thinking she has this immunity because she's like, oh, it's okay, we're married and I have this privilege. It's like, you've got privilege from the judicial system, but not from the cartel. And then Mike brings up the point that she put herself in the game when she did that, or not sure if he says he did or Jimmy did. But yeah, I thought that was just something that could come back to haunt her.
Well, you can definitely make that case. It depends how you're rating them. Like I'm rating them as a character and how three-dimensional they are. I think obviously as a sensible thing to do, that was quite a dumb thing to do from Kim Wexler's point of view, was to actually go and actually put herself forward to meet Lalo Salamanca. But I think it speaks to where her heart lay. She actually clearly had a night's sleep. It was an act of complete and utter desperation. Her Achilles heel is going to be her love for Jimmy McGill. That is going to be the thing that will kill her in the next season, because I think she's dead meat. There's no way she's making it to the end of season 6.
Jimmy's literally pleading with her in the hotel room. He's like, look, I'm not good for you. And she's like, you can't tell me what's good or bad for me.
Well, like I've got a bad feeling that is going to be our foreshadowing moment between season 5 and season 6. There might be a line about, oh, you're no good for me or whatever, before Lalo shoots her in the head or something. So like she is going to die. I would be astonished if they managed to neatly tie up a storyline for her to, I don't know, maybe they deport her or something and she's safe somewhere in I don't know, Europe.
I've got some word from the subreddits. There's a lot of posts with that. There's a lot of posts that are titled stuff like "Just a Theory" or "Did anyone else notice this?" But one of them is the fact that we know she's from Nebraska. We've had the flashbacks there. We've seen her. She's referenced it before, which is where we kind of got to factor in this point as well, that there's a post Breaking Bad world happening in this show as well, which is in Nebraska. So I don't know. we never know. And as well, before every scene, when we see Saul going to court, he has these little moments when he sort of like kind of snaps into the character, or he's practicing how he's going to say a phrase. So it's kind of, there's a bit of like the kind of iceberg. How much were we seeing of him in Breaking Bad when we weren't seeing her? So I don't know. I'm saying, yeah, could end up with a shot in the head in the desert, but I'm not writing off her survival chances.
It's not quite 50-50. You definitely be leaning 80-20 in favor of Salamanca at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'd go along. I think she's done, absolutely done. Right, Jimmy McGill, player rating on Jimmy. I'm giving him a 9, maybe tip to a 9.2. Like, I think he's almost a victim of his own success, given how highly we've rated him in the early seasons. Like, I think that he's just outshone by Kim in this. I think Mike being with him in the desert, like, that's very much a buddy cop scene, and you kind of feel Mike is as powerful in that rather than it being a Jimmy McGill series of events. So I feel for that he just doesn't reach the heights as Kim, and even at times Mike in this, and not Lalo's level either. Like, I'm just trying to think, like, the really interesting part of this season from Jimmy McGill's point of view is his relationship with Howard, isn't it? Like the bowling balls on the car, the rejection of the job, sending the prostitutes to him, all that sort of thing. Like, does he see Howard as the new physical embodiment of Chuck? And actually, this is his way of grieving. In season 4, it was ignoring everything and the odd outburst that Howard never presented himself. And then in season 5, it's really going at Howard, throwing a bowling ball at him. And that's how he's exercising his grief.
Yeah, I thought Howard was gonna be kind of phased out of the program. I didn't think he'd kind of come back in the way he has. I wonder then if when he just goes through Howard in the court and just in the court building and just like, you've got no idea what's going on, like, your job, I laugh at your job. I didn't know if that was a bit of him sort of like moving beyond. It's like, I've got more going on now than you can imagine. I didn't know if that was a bit of him kind of exercising that whole sort of grudge. But then the fact it's come back in the last episode, where that is primarily Kim who's going, we could destroy him. And Jim's like, yeah, but, I don't know. So, yeah, that was the way I was thinking about it until the last program. So, yeah, excited to see what happens there.
I think this is Jimmy, all... Go on.
Just saying, I've got Jimmy maintaining his 9. So he's built up the 9. He's sitting on the 9.
I think Howard is really a plot vehicle now. I didn't... Your theory about the grieving, that actually makes some sense, because I was like, why is he throwing the bowling balls? What's this about? What's, like, what level of revenge does he need to get to before it's like, okay, I've got you back? Because he could have taken a case against the wife and the firm and got some money out of them. Like, everybody would have really been happy to give him some money, which didn't make that much sense to me, that he just took the $5,000 and that was the end of that whole period, considering roughly 7 to 9 million quid is the worth of Chuck, and his ex-wife is going to get all that, when he knows the ex-wife obviously wasn't around. She wasn't the one buying him his FT and his Fuji apples. So that bit of it, grief might be the thing that ties that strand together. Like, I think we did definitely blow our wad a bit early on all this, and we should have been giving people 6s and 7s and building up to the point where they've just put together an amazing season here. But I still think Jimmy in the desert is amazing. Like, it is a 9.5 for me. It's kind of in that territory. Absolutely no problems.
Just one other scene just to mention from Jimmy before we move on is after he's in the courtroom with Lalo and he's out in the corridor and he sees the murder victim's family and he kind of peeks out from behind a wall. It's just amazing, because what you've got is a mirror image of one half of Jimmy's face out here and then the other half of his face being represented in the mirror image on the wall. And it looks kind of different. It's almost like that classic sort of drama face where half the face is black, half the face is white, one is a frown, one is a smile. And you just wonder at that moment if it's like, okay, now he's in deep shit. This is where he is a proper guy who represents murderers and knows that Lalo has killed this guy so clearly, and it's at that moment where he makes a decision, right, I'm going to compartmentalize that guilt and I'm going to press on with this.
Just one last
and
Jimmy
become a
thing.
friend of the cartel.
And become a friend of the cartel.
Just speaking of compartmentalizing, we've seen 10 series between the two programs, and we've seen people like getting shot in the head constantly and getting like these big shootouts. It's the first time someone's actually gone, what just happened there, and has like had PTSD after, and
Yes.
being like, it's so interesting because it's always just like bang bang inconsequential, where he's just, even like you can see he's like freaking out during the actual shootout. But yeah, I thought that was like just a real nice touch.
In television in general, that's often the case. The lack of trauma that happens after such an event. But I think that they even went above and beyond just to ensure that the audience was aware of how brutal this whole scene was, because it is pretty awful actually when you're seeing it live. It's visceral.
But sorry, I should just have to bring this up again. Celebrating the fact that Lalo is dead, telling Kim it's over before he gets a picture of the dead man's body, before, like, you know, the heart has been feasted on by Gustavo Frings in a chicken burger. That was one of the most idiotic things in the history of television. So I should actually be deducting a point for
it's
what
Mike's fault. Doing? That's Mike's fault as much as anything else.
Ger, he's gone, no, leave the cheeseburger. Let's just go home. Let's stay low. Let's get out of here. I think there is that apprehension, but yeah, definitely.
But don't mention it. Don't mention it until it's done. Like, we all know you don't catch chickens until they're hatched.
Mike should not have mentioned it either.
Mike was doing the right thing. Mike was calming down the psychopath who was telling all the neighbors that Mike is a hitman, basically, by banging on his door for an hour and like, there's a weird lawyer here who claims to represent you. He says something about a shootout in the deserts. And he's like, tomorrow we'll know. Tonight he's going to be killed. You don't celebrate a man being killed until he's killed, if you're like of a mind to celebrate another human being's death, which clearly they are. So I don't know. That was a classic error, and you knew it was going to happen. You knew, because this is exactly how, and like, that's just an old trope in all drama. It's like, hey, man, celebrating event before it actually happens. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that for sure, and I definitely give a lot of blame to Mike on that. And like, he slipped big time on two different occasions in the last 2 seasons, telling Saul that Lalo was going to get killed, and obviously with the German construction workers in the previous season. Just a quick rating on Howard Hamlin. Like, Jerry, you make a very valid point that we've kind of shot up too high in the ratings for a lot of these players early on in Better Call Saul. I did not make that error with Howard Hamlin. I had him as low as a 2, I think, 2 seasons ago. He's all the way up at an 8.5 after season number 5. Whoa. Incredible. I'll tell you why. He is the anti-Jimmy, the anti-Kim. He is the anti-Walter White, the anti-Skyler White. He is the only character that has gone on a journey in the Breaking Bad universe, and we actually love them more than we did initially at the start. These long journeys all happen where you take a likable-ish person and you end up hating them by the end. Howard Hamlin was not very likable at the start. Now you feel for him. Now you just want to give Howard Hamlin a big hug and say, it's going to be okay, man. Don't mind that Jimmy guy and that Kim woman. They're both dickheads. They're both friends of the cartel. Do not mind them. So because of that, 8.5. I love Howard.
I've got him going from, I take him back to a 7 last week because I felt like it was sort of, he was going to be phased out despite his constantly stellar performances. Got him back up to an 8 because he's come back into the reckoning here. He's back in the fold. Just on what you said there, he's the anti-Walter White, but look at his circumstances though. He doesn't have any real adversity. The whole thing is he's been handed everything that he has. He hasn't had to like have the psychopathic personality altering journey of like fighting for something. So, but yeah, no, Howard, always been a fan. The confrontation scene, if all the amazing stuff that happened in the last 3 or 4 episodes didn't happen, that'd be one of the highlights of the series. The scene with him and Jimmy, which is just incredible.
And him and Kim.
I just particularly enjoyed the Jimmy one. Just the relish of Jimmy and like the dumbfoundedness, the kind of it doesn't compute with Howard. He's sort of like, Jimmy, what are you talking about?
What's your rating?
I have a bit of sympathy with Howard. Like, Howard did the bad guy's bidding and did it as nicely as he possibly could throughout Jimmy's failed career in HHM, and now is like, he thinks being nice and helping Jimmy, who, you know, on the face of it might not be doing so well with life, has no real clients that you can, you know, tell your ma about. and it offers him a job, and then gets rewarded with the prostitutes and the bowling balls, and it's like what, and didn't actually kill Chuck. Wasn't the person who screwed up the insurance, and wasn't the person who beat him in court, and wasn't the person who pointed out that his illness was completely made up. So there's definitely a little bit of projection going on from Jimmy in that aspect of it. So look, I'm at a 7.5 with Howard. You can see now that he is going to be a major player as they plot his downfall, and they obviously plot his downfall successfully, and they're going to get their money, because we know Saul continues to be a lawyer, and there's no way he'd be able to if they get caught in this. So we know they're going to be successful somewhere along the way. Or do we? Is there some way that they can screw that up and not get any money, and nobody makes any money from the
it might not
nursing
happen.
home?
That's the whole plan, isn't it? The whole scuppering the entire case and nobody gets anything. That's the vindictive.
No, their plan is to get money. Their plan is to get the money. They're going to get the share of the common fund. So they're going to make 2 million. What's going to happen is they're going to disgrace Howard. The other guy who hired Jimmy, whose name I can't remember, will settle the case immediately at the latest offer, because Howard's disgrace will potentially, at least in the eyes of the other party, will potentially shit can. It's Schweikert. They're up against Schweikert still, aren't they? That's all a bit, when you think about it, that's all a little bit incestuous.
It really is. We're going to chat Lalo Salamanca and the incredibly high ratings I presume we're all going to give him in just a moment. Lalo Salamanca, this is the first time we've spoken about him on the player ratings, because he didn't get enough of an introduction at the end of season 4 to warrant rating. But he's gone from not off the bench long enough to straight into action and absolutely knocking it out of the ballpark. Tony Dalton, never heard of this guy before, never seen him in anything before, has immediately shot up to my top 10 favorite actors currently working in television right now. He's like the deadline day signing of dreams. What an incredible performance in season 5. A character, the definition of a guy you love to hate, because there has to be so much affection you have for him, because he's the most charming villain in television. 10 out of 10 for me, Lalo Salamanca. Guys, I'm not sure what you think.
This is like when Patrick Vieira signed from the subs bench at AC Milan. Basically, Arsene Wenger and 2 other people in the world knew who he was. And then he bestrides the Premier League like a colossus, second best ever midfielder after Roy Keane in some eyes. And it's like, holy shit, this was amazing. Like from the get-go, even to the point where I'm like, are they going to kill him off? Is that going to be the end of this season? They're like, Lalo is the sacrificial lamb at the end of this. And how it gets turned around to the bit where he's walking the wrong way from the escape tunnel, and he's walking the wrong way. It's like, what? Hang on a second, something good's gonna happen. Like, that was amazing. That was the bit where he's like, okay, he's going back in, right? Wow, that was class.
Was that an impression of Lalo you just did there? Because there was definitely a sort of Salamanca tone to your voice.
I'm going to start walking around talking like that now. And the scene with the Ferrari, like, this guy's got it all. And the weird thing is that he hasn't sniffed out Nacho. That's the only kind of bit where Nacho's sullen teenager shtick hasn't somehow raised a few at the very end, where he's giving them, like, I don't even know what that tequila is. The Henry Ocho, what is it? I don't know, but I'm like, my life's ambition now to drink some of that tequila in Mexico at some point.
Describing Nacho as a sullen teenager shtick is an excellent description. Like, that could be a spin-off all in itself. It's like, no, Mom, I'm playing Fortnite till 9 o'clock. You said 8:30. Come out for your dinner, Nacho. No, Mom, I'm playing video games in my room. That's the spin-off we need to see. Joe, Lalo, what do you think?
Yeah, incredible. Like, even his name, Tony Dalton, sounds like he's a film star or a quarterback or something. And I started to hear people talk about it, and it's like, oh yeah, Tony, of course, Tony. He's in that other stuff. What was he in? So I look at his IMDb, and like, he's not been in anything major. It's like, where did this guy come from? He's incredible.
Apparently, he filmed his audition tape on a phone in front of his bookshelf at home. That's what the showrunners say, that it was very much amateur footage. Exactly. There's an opening for all of us. It felt very quarantine, the way he actually auditioned for it. What a masterstroke. This guy's great.
And just like the comedic stuff, the charisma, the little faces, the little looks. I was distracted initially. So when he first came in, I was like, if you squint, that kind of looks a bit like Colin Farrell in like a kind of C-grade Colin Farrell film. And then, yeah, he's broken. He's got that out of my head anyway. He's coming to his own.
Yeah,
I'm trying to look up the key here. I'm completely distracted, but that Colin Farrell line is great. Look, the whole everything, like they're not worrying, 7 million, not blinking. Yeah, I can get that. You'll have to carry it in cash for me. Like, and then the cousins and the family relationship, and you know how he actually loves the people who work for him in the house, apart from that one guy who he's a bit mean to. Like, all of it is perfect.
Like, in 2 words, he managed to send chills down my spine when he walks into their apartment, into Kim and Jimmy's apartment. Is like, hey guys. At that moment, I'm like, oh fuck, shit, this is actually going to be a very, very grave conclusion to episode 9 of this television show. And it's callous. That's what he is. But God, he's charming and he's funny. He's got it all. He's got everything you want in a gangster. And for the writers of this show to draw him in whatever it is, 13 episodes. He's only been in 12, 13 episodes. It's just magnificent. Like, he obviously does get a mention in Breaking Bad when Saul asks Walter and Jesse, did Lalo send to you? And I guess this is obviously the drawback. This is obviously who Lalo is. And he is, much like Kim in my books, brown bread in season 6.
He's not. So if you're saying it, like, so is that not the giveaway there?
That he's hanging around, of course. Sorry, but yeah, that's a very good point that you make there. I thought that was like a legacy thing, but I thought that there was going to be an overlap of some description, that there could be some sort of concurrent Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad overlap. And my theory was that the overlap will be such that he can still be like, did Lalo send you? And it could still be true that Better Call Saul is happening concurrent to it. So when I saw that foreshadowing of Lalo from Breaking Bad, I thought that actually didn't affect my thinking that he is going to be finished up in season 6.
Yeah, this is something we were talking about earlier that I wanted to bring up. Actually, do you have that clip, the Bob Odenkirk clip, just quickly? This idea of the Breaking Bad and the Better Call Saul timeline, I just thought this was interesting. This is him speaking to TV Line just before the 4th series went out.
He's this mess of a guy. He's just sad, lonely, and kind of, his ego's so huge, and I don't like those kinds of people in the real world, and they exist. Whereas Jimmy McGill is a very likable guy. I think he's a good guy who's really trying to be a good person, and I find him empathetic and great. I think he's fun to play, but I think he kind of gets thinned out when he plays Saul. But anyway, I don't know how much we're going to do during the time period of Saul of Breaking Bad. We're going to do some, I know that, but I don't know how much we're going to do.
So that's got me very curious. How much are they doing? Where are they doing it? This doesn't fit into my neat little last 10 episodes. Also, as a fan, I don't necessarily want them to go into that universe. Like, I'm not sure if I want Hank knocking around. Like, I don't know if you guys watch El Camino. Like, I don't want this to be El Camino fan service. Better Call Saul goes to the circus. So yeah, this is my kind of my word of warning coming off of the incredible season. I'm not sure. I don't want to go too far into Breaking Bad universe. I don't think, unless they're going to do it, and it's going to be amazing, and I'm going to be back here in 6 months going, yeah, actually that was great. But I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, well, like, one thing that's become abundantly clear to me at this point is that I need to go back and rewatch the entirety of Breaking Bad between now and season 6, and like actually get this exact. I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to correct us, somebody who has rewatched it recently or has a better memory than me of exactly what happens here, because you've got me thinking here, Jared, that I might be wrong on this, but listening to what Bob Odenkirk is saying there, there's definitely a possibility that he can get killed off in season 6 of Better Call Saul, and it can still be true that he is a factor in maybe season 1 or 2 of Breaking Bad. So I think it's season 2 when Saul drops that line.
I actually thought Saul didn't arrive until the middle of season 3, but again, my timelines on Breaking Bad are so out of date at this point. Like, I watched it the first time around. So yeah, I was actually tempted to go back and just watch the episode that is called Better Call Saul, but haven't got around to that just yet either. like I don't know about the crossover. I can't remember any of El Camino or what actually happens in it, and I did watch it. There was a car journey in it that was important at
Well,
one
there
point.
you go.
Jesse was Jesse, and that was good to see him, and it felt warm and comfortable. But I didn't suddenly feel the urge to go back and watch the entire thing the way I do now, having watched this. So, like when you put your heart and soul into something and you develop properly, and you have these actors, like I probably would watch more of. I would certainly watch 2 more seasons of this. I think on the basis of the last 2 seasons that I just watched, I like would be up for seeing what happens in. Is it Nebraska he's in?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens there and a bit more of that world. And I would like some happy ending. I mean, I'm not sure that Slippin' Jimmy and Saul Goodman, I'm not sure those characters get happy endings in good pop culture. And, maybe I should rein in my hopes and expectations.
Are we calling Kim Slippin' Kimmy now? Is that the whole thing? Is it, like, I mean, everything is plotted down to a T in this television show. I wouldn't be surprised if like Kimmy and Jimmy is not a coincidence whatsoever. So what are we giving Lalo, lads? As I say, I'm giving him a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Give him a 9 with that
9.
ceiling.
Just a couple of other
Cat
things to wrap up on. We'll go through these pretty quickly. We've got Mike, we've got Gus, we've got Nacho. We'll do all these 3 together, lads, if you don't mind. I'm giving Mike a 9 out of 10. Again, a bit of weakness with the pity he has on Jimmy, perhaps, in this season. Then again,
Nacho.
He saves his life. And Nacho, yes, good point. And the pity he has on Nacho, for sure, twice goes to Gus to save his life, which I guess is ballsy for Mike as well. I've given Nacho a 7. Probably the weakest, the main characters at the moment, doesn't have long left, period. That's going to be an early point in season 6, I say. Nacho meeting a brutal death is what I'm saying. And then Gus levels off at around an 8. Obviously, peak evil Gus Fring has been seen on a couple of occasions, but that was more so season 4 when he kind of kept Hector in a coma, for example. That was the really cold version of Gus. He sets fire to his own place in season 5, but that's as interesting as it gets for him. So Mike a 9, Gus an 8, Nacho a 7.
Just
Yeah,
really
I'd
quickly,
go on, yeah.
just grading on the curve, have Mike on an 8.5, just slightly below the bracket on 9. Gus is on an 8. I know there was the fire scene, but we've also missed out on his most important scene, which was the fryer scene when he's like making your man keep cleaning the fire. I thought that was brilliant. Again, there's so much in this series that you almost forget about that. And then I'm taking Nacho controversially up from a 7 to an 8 because I think in that last episode they kind of squared. I've had this problem the whole time. It's like, I don't care about this guy. Like, there's no jeopardy. But then the fact they hooked his storyline in with potentially he can save Kim and Jimmy if he can kill Lalo. So they've kind of squared that circle and made you care about him. So just for making me care for an hour, I'm bringing him up to an 8. And he's doing a lot of thankless, amazing work. So yeah, that's my last 3.
There's a lot of brooding from Nacho. I was actually a little bit disappointed. I thought that they could have done more at Nacho. I thought that they would have turned him into a more rounded human being. And so he's kind of like at a 7.5 for me. It hasn't got to the level that I hoped that he would get to. Mike's humanity, I think, is them trying to redeem him in our eyes after killing the German in the last season. And so I really like that. I thought that, like, there is more to Mike. He's recovering. He's slowly coming back to himself as the caring parent who would murder for his son, as opposed to just the hired gunman, who is also a brilliant hired gunman and never loses his cool in the desert scene. So I thought that was all sensational work from him. That's a 9 as well. Gus, I was disappointed with Gus in this season. Oh, we're sending our best men. It's absolutely, we're going to look after everything and we'll save Lalo. Well, your best men didn't send 2 men into the kitchen at the same time when they needed to. And they didn't have one guy waiting, and they sent 2 guys into the tunnel instead of just sending 1 guy. I mean, come on. It's like you against 1 man who's injured and bleeding.
Also, I would have been able to shoot a guy if I had a boiling hot oil in my face. 100%. Like, I know he flings the hot oil and that's the thing that ends it. But still, if I'm blinded, I'm still shooting at him because it's your entire life. And that's really bad stuff from this Navy SEAL or whoever these people are, these renegade Navy SEALs that have been sent in. And he seems fine at the end when he's on the phone. It's only a bit of oil. He could have ended it there and then for all of us.
I'm saying he couldn't shoot him with the oil, he did recover well to like chat on the phone.
Yeah,
20 minutes later.
Really did. It was a remarkable recovery. Lazarus, I think, was his name. Just a couple of tweets in from people who've been watching along with us and they've been watching player ratings over the last couple of weeks. Sheahan on Twitter says best season yet, excellent. Paul Leonard on Twitter says Salamanca or Fring. I don't know who I was rooting for in the end. And Brendan Heffernan on Twitter, what a great season. Delighted Lalo will be back and love the juxtaposition from end of season 4 with Kim and Jimmy with the pistols. Lads, any final thoughts before we wrap up? What are you most excited for season 6? Any final
That's a great point. That is a great point. I'm 100% on Team Salamanca from this point forward.
Yes, same. Joe?
Yeah, no, my main thought is that kind of wondering where the timelines are going and all that stuff. But yeah, just it is like I watched Now They See Us, I think it's called, the thing about the Central Park 5. And it was like just weird going from watching Better Call Saul to watching that, which is like a really good TV show, but still kind of like a regular TV show, not like one of the best ever, which was just like, yeah, I'm definitely at that point where it's like the holiday's nearly over and you're like trying to enjoy it, but then you're thinking about the fact that you're trying to enjoy it. But yeah, no.
What are we going to do next? Are we going to go back, rewatch Breaking Bad? Are we going to start something new? What's next for the player ratings podcast, lads? Any ideas?
I would recommend Ozark. I mean, we could do Tiger King, but I think Tiger King was actually very mediocre. When you get to the end of it, you're like, really? I mean, there were brilliant documentaries about the whales. What's the one about the whale world, where they managed to get that whole thing into like 2.5 hours, and that would have been fine. Taking 7 hours of my life.
Blackfish.
That was it. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Taking 7 hours of my life for Joe Exotic, and that was like, no, that was not worthy of that amount of time.
No, we are not doing it. We could have done maybe a player ratings on Tiger King. We've missed the Tiger King boat. It is no longer number 1 on Netflix. So if it's not number 1, at least we do something over. With a bit higher quality. Tweet us if you've got any ideas what you want us to do next. Tweet us at Off the Ball. Ozark's good chat. I've started it myself, so hopefully we're back next week with something new. Ger, one final point.
Gangs of London. I've seen the first couple of episodes. It's kind of a cross between Succession, the ultra-violence of Clockwork Orange, and there was one other thing that I thought it was channeling, but I'll come back to me. But that's worth having a look at. It's on Sky Thursday.
Cool, good stuff. Lads, hopefully this whole pandemic is over sooner rather than later, because of course Better Call Saul can go back and film season 6 this time next year. Hopefully we'll be back rating players, but it's probably not. It's probably going to be 18 months at the very, very least. Joe, Ger, thanks a million.